Hello and welcome to Kylie Minogue, the Diminutive collection, where two fellas from the opposite sides of the world step back in time to throw themselves in the pop-tastic sounds of the Kylie albums we just can't get out of our heads. Every week, I'm Kieran from Down Under.
And I'm ChristyG, and we will give the Pop Boomerang's classic long players another spin and relive some of their finer moments.
In our mission to create the most definitive Kylie collection yet, we will choose two of the best songs from each of her studio albums that make us feel all Kylie smiley.
And we'll bin the icky clunkers that are definite Kylie no-nos.
Now enough of this chit-chat, let's get to it, because we've got to step back in time, Christian, to 1988 when Kylie released the debut album. Are you excited?
I'm very excited, Kieran. That first album fills me with glee just thinking about it.
Just, looking at that white cover with that hair spilling over. It was just a sensation.
It was a sight to see, that's for sure. A waterfall of curls. I could have asked for more.
Before we jump into it, Christian, how did you discover Kylie?
I discovered Kylie way back in 1986 when I was barely out of nappies. No, I was 13, 14, and
barely out of nappies. Yes.
I was still in nappies, but that's another story. So I was about 13 or 14, and Neighbours had just arrived on BBC One, and it was on in the mornings at 10 and repeated at lunchtime. Eventually, the programme became so popular in the UK that the BBC cleverly moved the second showing to 5 o'clock so that children who were bunking off school could actually watch the programme. So a few months into the programme, Charlene Mitchell arrived on the show, and she was seen breaking into Madge Bishop's house, and Scott pulled her out the window. Then she gave him a punch in the face, and that was the moment we all saw Kylie for the first time in the UK. And to be honest, she wasn't really my favourite person to start with. I was so used to all the other characters. She was a bit brash for me and a little bit wild, and maybe a little bit too much of a tomboy. But over time, I slowly fell in love with Miss Minogue.
Oh, because I was read somewhere that it was getting the 5 million mark for viewership, and then went to 16 million. But it's nuts, isn't it?
Well, during the day, it's something of a very strange cultural phenomenon in the UK. It was the first of the Australian soaps that, well, not the first. We had the Sullivans for a while.
Sons and Daughters,
and we had Sons and Daughters as well. That was at 3:30.
Yeah.
But Neighbours was part of the BBC's new daytime lineup, that was one of its key programmes during the day. And so because it was so easy to watch, and there were great cliffhangers, there were great characters, the show had this great following. So we got around 5 million viewers. And then when it moved to the 5 o'clock slot, it was getting 16 million viewers, which is quite phenomenal.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, no, because as an Australian, like through and through, I think I just discovered her as Danny's sister.
Danny's sister?
There was a show in Australia called Young Talent Time, hosted by Johnny Young. It was on for years, ever since before I remember it, but it was a culture phenomenon back then. And it was with these young kids singing pop songs of the day and, getting into scenarios and acting out little bits of it, always ended in song. It was phenomenal, like everyone rushing home on a Saturday and watching it on Channel 10. She was always Danny's sister, because Danny was a phenomenal star, one of the biggest stars in Australia at the time. She was like 8 or 9. Like Tina Rini used to be on it, and a few like John Bowles. So that's how I first was introduced to her, and then obviously Neighbours, and that became the culture phenomenon as well. So as you mentioned, even in Australia, the wedding with Scott and Charlene was the most watched thing in Australia, I suppose in the UK as well.
Well, over here it got 18 million viewers, so we all tuned in to watch them get married and listening to the lovely strains of Angry Anderson. Suddenly that was quite joyous, and that song went into the top 10 in the UK. So we could get enough of Australian madness.
But just to think, like, if you think back to the weddings of those days, there's probably only 3 weddings in that time that really infiltrated pop culture. There was kind of like Charles and Diana, Fergie and Andrew, and Scott and Charlene.
And also, I'd throw in the Dynasty Massacre, but that's a slightly different kind of wedding that I enjoyed more than I should have. But yes, they were part. Kylie and Jason were kind of TV royalty, so they kind of followed in the tradition of royal weddings. So. We all kind of sat down and watched them. We all remember what we were doing, and we remember her walking down the aisle to Suddenly, and then pulling up her veil and her hair all curly, and she looked very thin. I remember at that wedding. She looked thinner than I remember her. I didn't think she was the prettiest of brides. Dare I say it?
She had the baby breath in her hair. Like, she looked stuns.
but Scott looked lovely, and we were all kind of. It was a beautiful wedding
with those mullets. Yes,
it was beautiful.
Maybe we should go back and just talk about Kylie growing up. Or should we? No, because we were actually listening to this on her birthday.
Ah, of course, yes. Happy birthday, Kylie.
Happy birthday, Kylie. Her 52nd birthday, which is fantastic. So, well, as we know, she was born on the 28th of May in 1968 at Bethlehem Hospital in Melbourne, Australia. In her early years, her parents moved around a lot within Melbourne, and then they ended up sort of in the eastern suburbs, more kind of upmarket eastern suburbs of Melbourne. I've got this magazine. It's from 1987, and I think it's the very first one she ever put to market. And basically, I just want to read something from it because it did make me howl. She said, "I'm pretty shy at school, and I still am. I was one who was sitting at the end of the front row because I'm usually the smallest. I was into swapping cards, and I still have most of them, some being really old and antique, which still be worth a fortune one day," which I thought was really fun.
Oh, bless God.
Do you think she still has them?
Oh, who knows? Probably. She looks like a collector. Maybe Carol's got them somewhere in her sewing box.
And she was really proud of being good at elastics because it was much harder to do when you were small. And she wasn't much into sports. She was more into craft and sewing. Did you ever do elastics?
Is that the way you jump on? You've got the elastics around people's bodies. You jump
through.
Yes, I used to love that. You get one up to your neck, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when she was basically 11 when her mother's friend suggested her for a role, and then she ended up getting that. She got the role of Carla, the Dutch girl in Sullivan's. In Skyways, sorry, and then soon Sullivan's, and then soon followed was Skyways, where she played Robin, who was Jason Donovan's sister.
Yes, that's when they met for the first time.
Yes. So then, obviously, she went to school, and then Neighbours happened, and then the charity gig that started it all.
It changed her life, and it changed all of our lives. But you were over there, so tell us what that was like.
I wasn't at the charity gig, but it was basically at the Fitzroy Football Club at the Dallas Brooks Hall in Melbourne. There was a cast of about 8 of the show there, and they were doing a rendition of Sonny and Cher's "I've Got You, Babe," and it went down so well that Kylie just stepped forward and did a semi-rehearsed version of The Locomotion, and someone saw that and recommended, "Hey, let's do the demo." And she did it, and that's how it all started.
And so that song did very well in Australia, didn't it? Because it kind of went crazy.
Yeah, we're going to get to that, though, because The Locomotion, not logo-motion, The Locomotion is definitely one of my favourites. But we'll get to that when we go through the track listings of the album.
Good, because we're going to disagree on that wholeheartedly, I'm going to assure you. It's not one of my favourites. Get me started on that one.
Okay, so let's talk about the album itself. So, Christian, tell me, why are there hats on the Stock Aitken and Waterman albums? Please, I need to know.
I don't know. That could be a whole podcast in itself. The hats of Stock Aitken and Waterman. Kylie had 2 hats on 2 of her covers. Sonia had one on hers. Mandy Smith had one on her very rare album. Who else had? I think Donna Summer had a hat on her album too. My God, well, hats a go-go. They must be very popular back in the 80s, but yes, that seemed to be the theme. And so, Kylie was. Well, I think she's probably the iconic hat wearer on the cover of a PWL album.
I know. I mean, I'm just looking at the album now. Obviously, it's got her with her hair spilling over, a couple of 2 curls seamlessly falling to the side of her face. But I'd like to read the credits of the album. "To my wonderful family, my dearest pups." I think she's talking about her dogs, not her breastises, right?
Well, I would have thought so.
"My manager Terry and my great friends, my sincere thanks to you all for your continued care and support, Kylie." So this would have been 19-year-old Kylie at the time. So I think, shall we get into...
Yes, let's. I guess we should. Yes, let's.
Yes. So track number 1.
Oh, we're going straight into it. Well, the album came about because of the song in Australia. Mm-hmm. So when she had a hit in Australia with the original version of Locomotion, which was produced by, was it Mike Duffy?
Mike Duffy, yes.
So that was released in Australia. It was number 1 for how many weeks?
It was it was released on 27th of July 1987. It was within weeks of the final episode of the Scott and Charlene wedding, actually. So I think it was like number 1. It sold 200,000 copies, but it was like number 1 for the good part of the year.
My God, are there that many people in Australia? Did koalas buy it?
No, seriously, it was a phenomenon. Like literally, I remember the video so vividly, and it was on Saturday morning television, kids TV. It was brilliant, and actually, one of the dancers in the video, the one with the black hair. She was doing, I can't remember the name of the TV show now, but she was actually the presenter who ended up covering the making of the video clip and doing it. So she was in there, and there's some variances. If you watch the original version and the UK version, there's some differences in the video.
I need to look at that closely because It's one of those videos, in all honesty, it's one of the songs and one of the videos I don't tend to revisit because it's one of the most horrific Kylie Minogue songs for me. That is a Kylie Minogue, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Do you think?
I've never been a fan of the song in general. There are versions she's done that I like. The version she did on the recent tour, I really liked. I like that kind of 70s.
It was mixed in with the Donna Summer.
Yes, it was a great 70s version, and I quite like that. But I've never been a fan of the song, and I've always found it a little bit irritating. So every time I hear it come on, I tend to close my ears and disappear.
Well, the song was written by Carole King and her husband at the time, but it was actually written and sung by Little Eva, who was the babysitter to Carole King's baby, apparently.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
I still don't like the song. But anyway, so that was released in Australia, and then I think there was talk of Kylie coming over to the UK, where she was obviously one of the biggest stars, and Stock Aitken and Waterman had been asked to work with them, and I think they'd heard the version of the Locomotion, but didn't think it was good enough to make it over here. So.
Yeah, Pete wasn't very overly impressed with it. He said it wasn't great, it was passable. So they re-recorded it or remixed it as well.
Yes, he's been very kind, because the song, if you listen to it now, it sounds very dated. It sounds very tinny, and in my mind, it just doesn't. It sounds like something you've done on a Bon Tempi organ. It's not particularly professional, if you ask me. But that's by the by. I'm sure there's lots of people who love that version.
See, I like her vocals a lot better on the Australian version than the UK one.
Oh, was she triple tracked?
No, she wasn't triple tracked.
She didn't sing on that Cal Rex sound microphone, whatever it's called.
But like that shows, like when I was listening to the album today in preparation for this, you can actually hear her being triple tracked and singing along with herself on certain parts, which is a skill. It's an absolute skill, because being a singer and creating it, because this is 1988, remember, there wasn't like auto tune and stuff like that back in those days. So she had to have a proper skill to ensure that those tracks were layered. But, kudos to her for that, because it's actually quite good. So then like the Locomotion for me was I had the posters, I had the 7-inch, 12-inch, single, everything on Locomotion.
You're obviously a very big fan of it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, she flew over to the UK, and Stock Aitken and Waterman were due to write a song for her, and I'm sure all Kylie fans know the well-told, often told story from Pete Waterman about how she sat in the waiting room, blah, 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 blah. We all know the story, so you probably don't need to go into it. Although, if you don't know the story, in brief, she sat in the waiting room, they forgot she was coming, they had to quickly knock up a song in 10 minutes, and then she recorded...
40 minutes.
40 minutes, I'm corrected. 40 minutes, and then she disappeared while they mixed the song. And of course, that song was I Should Be So Lucky, which was going to be her first UK number one. Her first UK... Well, it wasn't number one, but it's her first UK single. And Kieran, how did you feel about that when you heard it for the first time? Because it's a lot more polished than the previous work.
I'd never heard, as a 8-year-old when it first came out, I actually never heard anything like it before. It was the for a young set of ears. I'd never heard. It was something that was different. I remember the video. Hand on my heart, like all those ones. I remember. I Should Be So Lucky was the one that stuck with me, because she was in the bathtub, and as a little young child, I kept on pausing the video, trying to see if there's any like nipples showing or anything like that, and the flopping down the bed. So he had all these iconic moments in that one video for a young, impressionable kid was phenomenal, and it was still one of my favourite ones of hers, except for the crap, cheap, clip art kind of with a hat with the with the things.
I didn't understand how those videos were kind of even planned. How do you storyboard a video like that? So you just put some cheap cheap kind of images in there. It was a very, very bizarre kind of video, but I'd love to have sat in that meeting that came up with the ideas for that. But before you'd heard I Should Be So Lucky, had you heard any more of Stock Aitken and Waterman in Australia?
No.
Was it a whole new sound to you?
No, it wasn't actually. Well, I had Samantha Fox's second album, Samantha Fox, which was probably the third album I ever bought. What first being Bangles, second was a mixtape, then Samantha Fox, and then Kylie Minogue. So I heard, Nothing's Going to Stop Us Now. So, but as an 8-year-old, not really realising that was Stock Aitken and Waterman. So no, I think this was my first proper deep dive, into the Stock Aitken and Waterman world, and I haven't looked back, and I'm glad for it.
Now, the strange thing about this, and I heard I Should Be So Lucky for the first time, and I wasn't immediately blown away by it. And I thought, it's a pop song. I wasn't really that fussed about it. It was catchy, and I liked it, but it didn't excite me. And so I didn't actually buy that originally, which is kind of quite odd now to look back and think about it. So I wasn't really a massive fan of the song, and it kind of I think over time it slowly kind of crept into my mind and became one of those songs that I did enjoy. But it was only until it got to be certain the follow-up that I realised that for me that was the best Kylie song so far, because I just thought it had a much better tune and I liked the video more, and I think I liked Kylie more in the video. I preferred her.
Did you ever see the I Should Be So Lucky video of her in the back of the car driving around Sydney?
Oh yes, I showed that on Top of the Pops. I think you see that's what these are things I remember. I saw her on Top of the Pops in the back of the car and the wind blowing her curls, and I thought to myself, there's something about the song I'm not quite getting. And
maybe it was a video.
It actually makes me feel quite sad to think about it now, because I do now, as a slightly older gentleman, I look back with that song with a lot of kind of with lots of warmth, and I really do enjoy it. So, but at the time, it was the song that didn't pull me in. It was only when I heard the next song that I just thought, wow. I think I sat up and took notice. Oh my god, Kylie's a great pop singer.
Wow. Okay.
So should we go into the album before?
Yeah, sure.
Although we should also mention, I guess, that when Pete did release I Should Be So Lucky, nobody wanted to release it, and so this is where he formed PWR Records, which was his record label, because none of the major labels thought the song was good enough to sign up, and so they all turned it down. And Pete Waterman, in fairness to him, he really believed in the song, he believed in the singer, and he set up his own company. And
boy, did he bank it.
And they must have been so sorry, those big buffoons. Because in years to come, they came screaming for him to record their songs.
Just a bit of stats. I Should Be So Lucky sold 675,000 copies, making it the best-selling single in 1988, in both the UK and Australia. Making her the first artist to hold consecutive number ones in both countries.
Wow. See?
So, I mean, amazing.
Think of all that money he made.
And all that money that Ron counted.
And all those purses that Carol was sewing together to put all that loose change in. I loved it. While Brendan was there filming on his camera. And Danny was
seething with jealousy.
peering behind the door. Kyle, I'll get you.
Okay, yeah, so the album happened. So obviously, with this, no one really realised the success. They knew Locomotion, I Should Be So Lucky, could have been another second hit wonder kind of thing. But then as soon as that exploded, they need to record the album.
So I Should Be So Lucky was number one for 5 weeks. Got to Be Certain only got to number two, but it stayed at number two for quite a long time. So it really made it quite clear that the UK had fallen in love with Kylie. So there was obviously something about her that made her very successful. And then they released Locomotion a bit later on.
Loco-motion with the cross on the album cover. So that was the single after Got to Be Certain. But going back to just after the success of I Should Be So Lucky, Pete Waterman had to fly to Melbourne to basically beg and plead Kylie to come back and record a follow-up, because
why was that?
She was treated.
Yeah.
Because I totally forgot about her in the waiting room. She basically sat and drank coffee while they wrote this song. She had a flight at 4:10. She left the studio at 2 o'clock in the afternoon after laying it down for 40 minutes. So he basically begged and pleaded for her to record this Got to Be Certain, and she did that in Australia in between takes and rehearsal for Neighbours.
Heavens! See, it doesn't take long to create genius.
So it was basically. I think by the time Got to Be Certain was released, Kylie had already finished her scenes as Charlene from Neighbours.
You see, I get very confused because we were so far behind on Neighbours that I wasn't quite sure when she left, because she obviously went to Brisbane in that old Green Mini.
She's probably still there. She's probably still in Brisbane with Scott, right?
Bless her. I don't know, because they tend to always kill people off, and they wouldn't kill off Kylie. They kill off Charlene.
No.
But yeah, so she'd left by that point because she then decided that music was going to be her future.
And according to the stuff that I've read in some publications, the track made history in Australia as the second single to enter the top 40 in the top spot.
Wow, that's an achievement.
Yeah, I think it's quite good.
Yeah, that's and yes, that's a very, very exciting thing for Kylie to have under her little hatless hair hat. I'm going to get my mouth around hair hats.
under those amazing perms. And then obviously after the success of so it was like, just so we're clear, it was Australian, Locomotion, I Should Be So Lucky, Got to Be Certain, then the album, and then Locomotion, or Locomotion, then the album, because they're both released in July 1988.
I think they probably came out I think maybe Locomotion came out before the album, because the way it used to work, you released three singles and then an album would follow a week after. And the Locomotion that did emerge was a completely different remix version, which I actually preferred to the god-awful Australian version. I mean, it had that really nice high energy...
So racist.
Well, no, just I've got taste. And that lovely high energy bass line just got me going, even though I still didn't like the song, but it was a lot better than that original version.
But don't you feel the original version has more bum? It's more kind of like it's big bassier. It's like I think this saw is very kind of tinny and still it's very up there. Well, I'm just you guys can't see, but I'm basically raising my hands and doing a low kind of thing. But I think
I don't know. I think my ears at that point had become tuned into cheap disco beats. Prior to Kylie, I used to love Bucks Fizz, so I always liked pop music, and I kind of did that music for many years. It was only when I heard the Kylie songs with Stockacre and Waterman that I realised that they were such a great production team, and so I kind of fell in love with that sound, and so then I got kind of addicted to hearing these kind of really, really bouncy, kind of not real instruments, high energy away. I love the sound of that kind of high energy bass line. It was just amazing. So
let's talk about the album now. So the album was released. It did massive, huge numbers. It was released on the 4th of July, 1988. We're number 1 in the UK, number 2 in Australia, the highest position recorded for a female debut at that time.
Wow.
It ended up selling 7 million copies worldwide.
Well, that's probably a lot for those days. I guess when you compare it to people like those Lady Gagas, it's probably a small fry. But back in those days, that was an amazing achievement.
Massively huge. I mean, the album became the best-selling album in 1988 and the 5th best-selling of the whole entire 1980s in Britain.
My God, that's crazy.
And it notched up 1.8 million in the first 6 months of sales, and obviously resulting in the 7 million worldwide. But then obviously they've reissued it recently with the Cherry Records, and with the addition to streaming, obviously those numbers are just going to keep growing. So.
And so, do you remember when you bought that record?
Oh my God, yes, I do. I remember listening to it as well. It was one of those things where I always wanted it for my birthday. I knew it was coming out because obviously she released these singles and everything. So I was like, Mum, I want this album. And I did get it. And I remember getting home, putting my twin cassette tape deck on my chest and just listening to it over and over and over again. It was incredible. It was also, again, I've not heard that kind of music before, other than singles that was released. But it was just a different sound. The songs were uplifting. It was amazing. That's incredible.
I remember I bought mine from Woolworths. It was a cassette album because I don't think CDs were around at that point. So
I think they were.
Were they? Well, I don't think I had. I was a little bit behind in terms of technology.
Take infrastructure?
No, I didn't have that. I just had the cassette for that for the time being. I remember dashing home and running up to my bedroom and kind of sticking it into my my little kind of. What are those big box things? Not ghetto blasters. That's no, that sounds a little bit too. Street for me, but it was one of those lovely things that has lovely bass speakers. Anyway,
Barbie cassette player.
Yes, it was bright pink. Anyway, so I listened to the album and I put it on, and I obviously heard the first couple of singles I already knew, and then I heard Like Emotion, and then I heard all the other songs, and I was mesmerised. Every song that I heard. Well, about 1 or 2, but I'll come to those later. I absolutely loved, and I just couldn't get enough of it. So for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I just literally played it on repeat because I just loved the song so much. And then I'd go rushing to school, and I went to a boys' school, so and I was a homosexual, although I didn't know it at the time. That came later. I dashed into school to try and find anyone I knew who would like the album, and none of them really did, except one boy who I didn't realise was a special chap, but he turned out to be a special chap many years down the line. Well, we both kind of bonded on a couple of songs on the album, and then so I had something to talk to about it, and it was all we would do is say, did you listen to that part of the song? I love that part of the song. I love this bit. I love this. We were so giddy.
Oh wow!
We were so giddy.
Are you still in touch with this gentleman?
He's on Facebook. Yeah, I haven't seen him in years, but we used to go to the music room out of lunchtime, and
did you explore each other sexually?
Oh no, we've never touched each other. But he was a lovely chap. I think he was Italian, if I remember. But we used to play our cassette album in the little side music room, and we also had a keyboard, and he could play the piano, so he would kind of play some of the songs that were on the album, like Turn It to Love, and because it was the bass lines were basically octave, boom, 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 boom. So very easy to play.
Uh-huh.
So we used to do that at lunchtime. And then while all the other pupils were playing football and being masculine, we were being total gays at break time. So there you go.
Okay, so the album released.
Oh yes.
Can we talk about the single that followed? Because it's really
Which
not
one
my
was this
favourite. Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
So hang on, this was the third single, wasn't it? I made a mistake because I thought Locomotion was the one that came third.
It did, I think.
Am I confusing the issue? Yes, it is. I am completely wrong. We're drinking wine at the same time as doing this. So of course, the wine's gone straight to my head, and I completely forgot that because Je ne sais pas pourquoi came out a few months later with the delicious Made in Heaven on the back, but we'll come back to that one as well.
Yes.
So you're right. On the album, when I heard the album the first time and it came on, I thought, oh, that's a bit different. It sounded different to the other three songs. So I kind of thought, well, you know what? I quite like that song. But then I realised it didn't have the high energy oomph that I was looking for. So I was, it was the one I would kind of return to least.
I mean, if you put Je ne sais pas pourquoi and then listen to I'll Still Be Loving You straight after, they're pretty much the same song, but I'll Still Be Loving You is a much stronger song.
Yes, that's to me that's like a Whitney Houston song.
Yeah, but I think the best thing about Je ne sais pas pourquoi is the video.
Well, there's a lovely story in there. It's quite a heartbreaking story because poor old Kylie's been stood up.
Yes, and she meets that French woman in the rain.
And say that
another time, another place.
Yes, they say that French people are very friendly, but she was giving that woman some sage advice.
Kylie did look amazing in that video, though. In that little blue dress, it looked amazing.
It was a very beautifully designed. It looked like it cost a lot of money because you had the lovely set, didn't you? Of this kind of like Parisian backstreet.
It's a proper film studio. It looked like,
and it was raining, wasn't it? So she had her umbrella that was raining. There was obviously a rain machine somewhere.
Yes, and obviously the special effects where they went into black and white dancing.
And we saw the chap, although he was wearing a very billowing white blouse and one of those kind of 80s trousers. So, I mean, he was a handsome chap.
I think he crossed over recently, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe he's now no longer with us, bless him.
Well, she'll be waiting a long time if she's still waiting for him. But I'm sure she'll still be loving him. That's a shame. But yes, he was a very handsome man, so I can understand why she was kind of a bit put out that he hadn't turned up. The
video was directed by Chris Langman, who basically did all her videos before, so Locomotion, I Should Be So Lucky, Got to Be Certain, and he basically directed the Henderson Kids. Well,
right. I see.
Basically, she was with him for all that time.
I have to admit, all the videos she did, aside from, from Got to Be Certain onwards, I think the videos looked quite beautiful. They always looked like they had a bit of money spent on them. I Should Be So Lucky, not so much.
I think the Locomotion was a good video.
Oh, no.
Did you watch the Australian version?
I don't know
where there's product placement. There's like impulse cans and stuff that have been edited out for the UK release, and there's more of her in the studio.
Oh, it just looked like it'd be put together in 5 minutes. But I found the other videos. I mean, Got to Be Certain, had so many locations in Australia. It was like a tourist board advert. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was a Melbourne tourist advert.
I mean, some of the outfits. I mean, she was obviously pushing herself into high fashion. It looked like the opening titles to Return to Eden. There were bits where she was walking along with that red hat. Was it a red hat?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the videos were quite high, good production values, and it should have Step Up Quoi followed in that kind of tradition. And yeah, it was actually quite a tender song. I wasn't a massive fan, but I do remember staying up one night. ITV had just launched its Through the Night programming, and there was a program called Video View, and they'd have celebrities come on sit on a couch, and they would be asked to watch videos, and if they didn't like the videos, they'd bang the buzzer and stop the video halfway through. And I knew that they were doing Je ne sais pas pourquoi because it had been released that week, and I was watching and thinking, I can't wait to find out what they think about it. And obviously, even if I didn't like the song, I thought, well, I'm a Kylie fan, so I've got to stand by her and hope that they like it. I can't remember who one of the people was, but the other one of the reviewers was the lead singer of Hue and Cry, who had one hit back in the 80s. They're a Scottish band. They're still around now. And no sooner had they got to the chorus, and Hue and Cry got out of his chair and he banged that buzzer, and I was furious. And I thought, I'll never ever listen to any of your records again, and I never have. Never again.
So if you see him in the street, you'd be like, because
I'd spit him.
You just press that buzzer during Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Well, I guess he's been so busy for the past 30 years, looking at all the hits she's had and wondering where all his hits were.
Can we please talk about Made in Heaven?
Oh, well.
Oh, delicious Made in Heaven, delightful. It's seriously, I have no idea why that was not on the album. It was on the Kylie collection, the Australian edition, which I had, but it was the Made in something mix. It was the Made
the Made in England mix.
It was the Made in England mix.
Is that spelled MAID as well?
Let me have a look at it. Yes, Made in Australia mix, not the Made in England.
Oh,
Made in
wow.
Australia.
Who would have thought?
Just holding it in my hands now.
You see, I remember being in the UK and seeing on in magazines. Yeah, because there's no internet. So I must have seen it in magazines. These other versions of Kylie's album, and the Kylie collection, that was a slightly expanded version of it.
Well, yeah, it's a whole album, but just with remixes of every song after, yeah.
And on the cover, she's wearing this kind of like cream beigey smock, and she's, again, there's a hat on the cover. She's not wearing it this time. She's holding it in her hand as if she's...
Oh my God, Pete Woodman must have been devastated.
He must have been a milliner in a past life.
He might be like Quentin Tarantino, who loves feet. He might like hats.
Oh, possibly, yes. By the way, there's a lovely straw hat on the cover of this one. But yes, I always thought she was a bit like a clown. But I always got so excited because in those days, well, I was a child, so I didn't have much money and I didn't know how to order overseas to get things sent to you. And so, I always looked at this album, which I'm now holding in my hands, and I've got a tear in my eye. I'm holding it in my hands and I'm just thinking, wow, I wish I had this all that time. It's so weird looking at cassettes now because... Looking at the cassette in my hand, it's so small, it's tiny.
It's like Big Macs. Like Big Macs has shrunk, but I'm pretty sure because
Big Macs has shrunk.
No, Big Macs, like the burgers.
Oh right, yes, yeah.
Like when you're a kid holding a Big Mac, they look massive, but now they're tiny.
I mean, these are the kind of cassettes that make your penis look big. But that's by the by. Yes. Yeah. So Made in Heaven was an amazing song. It was on the B side, and
yes,
I remember listening. But I remember because I didn't like Je ne sais pas pourquoi. I'd flip it over and I just thought, oh, it's a new song, I can't wait to hear it. And then when I heard that, da, 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 I thought, oh my Lord, this is absolutely crazy. I remember just dancing around my room and doing dance routines to it. And I got so excited when I heard it. It was the best song I'd ever heard.
I read somewhere, because I always thought it was double A side, but apparently, according to a book that I read, contrary to the legend, the single was never officially listed as a double A side in Britain. The plan was to flip the record over in the weeks after the release to prolong the commercial release of Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Oh, what a clever idea. Because I would have been bored with Je ne sais pas pourquoi very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the video of it?
Well, the videos. Well, it was on Hit Factory 3, I believe. No, on the videos collection, because that's where I saw it for the first time, and it's this done on the cheap.
Oh my God! And there's she was like John Paul Gaultier cheap.
But before Madonna.
Really?
That came before Madonna.
Oh my God, yes, this was 88.
Yeah, so...
89.
No, 88.
Yeah.
So she had this kind of, well, I'm sure most fans out there know the video, but she was wearing this kind of dress that looked a little bit oversized because she didn't really fill out the bustier area. But that bustier looked a little bit like a Madonna outfit. But I think it was before Madonna's time.
Do you think Jean Paul Gaultier got the idea from Colin Minogue?
Maybe. And yeah, that could be... See,
exclusive.
All that stuff that they say that Kylie copies Madonna, it's Madonna who copies Kylie, that old husband, those claw-like fingers.
That is, though, yeah, don't, because there could be people who cut us down.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. But the other thing about the video is she's doing this kind of like to-camera dance, and she's surrounded in a ruddy glow, so she's got this kind of weird blue...
Look at Xanadu!
Yeah, she looks a little bit like Xanadu.
Olivia Newton-John was her idol. The whole Grease, she loved Grease growing up.
I wonder if she was involved in coming up with the idea for the video. Look, folks, I want to end up having a video like Xanadu. Do you think she asked that question?
Most likely,
Just saying there were no roller skates. But it was clearly done green screen, because in the background there was a very kind of messy montage of some of her previous videos. So, but for fans who loved the song, and it was one of the only opportunities you really got to see her sing it, so it was quite joyous to see the video. I loved it. I remember getting my Hit Factory 3 video VHS. I remember just rewinding it again and again because that was the song I loved the most.
Yeah, and obviously in Australia, did you have the Kylie Collection VHS over here as well? Or did you have Kylie the videos?
We had Kylie the videos, and we had the Hit Factory videos.
Yeah, on Kylie the videos, did they have the Made in Heaven video on there?
Oh God, I can't remember.
Because in Australia, we had the Made in Heaven video that was mixed in with bloopers from her shooting the Kylie videos. I haven't watched those VHSs in a while, so I need to double check. But I've got both here, so maybe I'll have another bottle of red wine. We'll crack out the VHSs.
Oh yes, but there was a time that Kylie did perform it live.
Oh, she did.
I say live. She was miming, of course, but she appeared at the Royal Variety performance.
When you say, of course, she doesn't do it anymore, though.
No, I kind of missed the days when she just literally lip synced.
Why?
She lip synced for her life. She lip synced for her career, and I loved every single minute of it.
No.
I'm not a big fan of people who sing live, unless it's no, I don't. So yeah, she performed at the Royal Variety performance in front of the Queen Mother, and she started off singing "I Should Be So Lucky," and then she kind of started to sing Made in Heaven, and it had been mentioned in the press beforehand, so I remember being very excited, sitting there thinking, oh, she's going to sing that new song for the first time, and I got so excited. I remember recording it on VHS, and then watching her do it, and she dances around her. There's 4 dancers behind her, and she's got a great dance routine for it. She's running up and down the stage, and it was one of the most beautiful moments of my entire life at that point in time. And I just ended up watching it again and again because the song for me was so good. I couldn't stop listening to it. That really was it really did make me. It was a Smiley Kylie song.
It was a Smiley Kylie one.
That's a Smiley Kylie for me.
So the next song we're going to go on to is probably a kind of a no-no for me, and it is It's No Secret. Because you told everybody. This was supposed to be the original last single. It was the originally last single from the album, but scrapped especially for you. But like for you collectors out there, whoever has the mushroom edition of It's No Secret, hold on to that because it's worth a fortune. If you ever go on eBay and try to find that thing, it's absolute fortune.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really, really not my favourite song. The video is great because it's filmed in North Queensland, where I'm from in Australia. Oh. It's filmed in Port Douglas. So watching that video does make me a little bit homesick. But yeah, not the greatest song.
When I listened to the album for the first time, I actually really liked It's No Secret. I thought it was a great song. It had a really kind of, a really good sing-along melody, and I kind of really enjoyed it. But again, as time went on, it kind of, it didn't, the memories didn't linger, and it wasn't a song that I look back on with love, although you're waving something in my face right now.
So I've got in my hand the American 12-inch of It's No Secret, with the Made in Heaven and the Made in England mix. So there's 2 on there as the B-side. However, one thing I want to point out to you, on the back, and we can put a photo on this on our Instagram channel so you can have a look, she's wearing the watch belt.
Oh, well, this is from, remind me where this is from. My memory's gone blank. It's the red wine. It's into my head. I'm losing my Kylie mind. Tell me.
That was from... I have no idea either. Where else did she wear the... They basically repurposed these images, because that was from the Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
That's what yeah.
Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
There you go. This is basically that same record.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, they're so cheap. But this is the American release, and then on the right-hand side on the back.
Yes, there's Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Thank God for that. I knew it.
Yes.
I didn't recognise it without the piece of real font.
Yeah, they basically repurposed Je ne sais pas pourquoi artwork for the American release of It's No Secret.
Actually, let's just go back to Je ne sais pas pourquoi for 1 second. The single cover, or the artwork, is actually very beautiful. She actually looks really beautiful in that picture.
Yes.
And I forgot that because she's got really nice, not tight curls, but this lovely tousled kind of long hair, and she actually looks beautiful. And I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but she looks absolutely amazing. Oh. Yes. There you go. Oh, lovely Kylie. Oh, you are beautiful. We know this.
And I'm going back to the video as well, because, again, that was directed by Chris, who did everything up to that time as well. But have you seen it recently? So they actually play the locomotion in the video, which is the bartender, which I thought was really quite sort of Wes Craven-esque New Nightmare before it even happened kind of thing.
Yeah, so she's not very happy in the video, so maybe she was listening to that awful locomotion that I can't bear. So, yes, but the one thing I remember from that video, there's a scene, and as I said, I'm a man who is of a certain nature, but I remember watching the video, there's a scene where she kind of walks toward this kind of lovely big building in the sunshine, and she's wearing kind of a grey dress that seems so tight-fitting, that kind of really grips her bottom. And I have to admit, I was always quite mesmerised by that. So it's amazing that now that I'm a fully-fledged homosexuality, that I was actually quite tickled by her rump.
Did you get some stirrings down there?
I'm not sure if it was a staring, but it was certainly my eyes was definitely peeled when I was looking at them.
All right, now moving down, we spoke about Got to Be Certain before, because that's track 5 on the album.
Yes.
So...
Oh, but actually, what we didn't say about Got to Be Certain, and this is the thing that we discovered many years later, and I was a bit disappointed by this, because I assumed that the Kylie album had been pieced together mainly for Kylie. I thought Soccer Game Waterman would have sat down and they thought, well, I've got a good artist here. I'm going to write songs that are absolutely amazing for Kylie, just like I Should Be Sluggy had been. But years later, once upon a time, Mike Stock actually denied this, but there was a rumour that Mandy Smith had actually recorded Got to Be Certain, and he denied this in an interview, said that that's not true. But then, when the Stock Aitken Waterman Gold album came out, they had the version on it. It's not it's the same backing track, but her vocals, unsurprisingly, are particularly good, and the rhythm of the chorus is slightly different, and it's quite awkward. Kylie's version is a lot more kind of free-flowing, while Mandy's is a little bit more staccato. But I was disappointed to discover that it hadn't been originally written for Kylie. But in my head, it's always going to be Kylie's song. And it's actually quite nice to hear somebody else's vocal on that. So if you get a chance, you should always listen to Mandy Smith's version. It's quite interesting to listen to.
Which also brings me into what's your thoughts on Hazel Dean's "Turn Into Love," which is the next song we're going to be talking about.
Hazel Dean, yes. Well, all I can think of right now is lesbian. But back in the day, I never knew. I just thought she had a short haircut because it was easy to manage. I love so "Turn It Into Love." Now we need to.
But let's get back to. Got to be certain.
Oh right, yeah.
Smiley, Kylie, or Minogue? No.
For me, Got to Be Certain is definitely a Kylie Smiley.
I think Got to Be Certain, Kylie Smiley. It's no secret for me is a no.
No, Kylie Smiley.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't know you anymore. Yeah. Okay, Turn Into Love.
Now this is a Kylie Smiley because when I heard this for the first time, I actually burst into tears.
I'm basically holding him back from the microphone because I'm so excited.
When I heard that xylophone introduction of the song, I just could not. It sounded heavenly because it's just beautiful, and I love the chords, and it sounded so melancholy and perky at the same time, and then the verses were just kind of heartbreaking, and the melodies so miserable, but still at the same time it's high energy and it's poppy, and then we get to that chorus. It's just it's anthemic.
So why the Japanese market and not the UK and Australian?
Yeah, so
was it Kylie's saturation that stopped everyone we can't release another single from this album because the public will be sick of her?
Well, I don't know. You see, this is the thing. So when I heard the album, I thought this is definitely a single because it was the best. For me, it was the best song on the album. It was the one that really stood out. And that was. I remember flipping over my cassette tape and then playing the first song, thinking, "Oh, is it just going to follow in the same groove?" And I heard this kind of 3.5 minutes of magic. I thought, oh my God, this song is unlike anything I've ever heard before. And I thought, this has to be a single. So when it wasn't one, I thought, oh, how stupid, how ridiculous is this? It reminds me of the Disco Needs You fiasco when they didn't release that. But, so then it was released in Japan, and where it became a number one for 11 weeks.
Yeah, it's massive. It's huge.
Which goes to show it really had made an impact. Although I think maybe the Japanese market is slightly different to over here. But
was this before the Disco and Dreams tour, or was it around the same time?
Is that the Kylie on the Go video? That's how I know it. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it probably coincided with the release.
She never performed that on the show, did she? Or maybe she did, but just didn't use it.
Yeah.
Because we never know what gets cut out of these things. But yeah, it was. I remember being so angry and I was furious because I just thought, how can those lucky Japanese people get to enjoy all those delicious versions? Because it was the extended mix and everything over there.
Yeah, and apparently, still one of the most sought after collectibles as well. That Turn Into Love.
I remember I interviewed Pete Waterman one time, and he was saying to me that Mike Stocker's said that it's one of his favourite songs he's ever written, but Pete Waterman said it's one of his favourites, and he went to Japan years and years ago with some businessmen, and they went to a karaoke night, and the Japanese businessmen they selected "Turn It Into Love," not realizing that Pete Waterman was involved in the writing of it, and the song had become so big over there that other groups covered it. There's a group called Wink who covered it. There's another couple of singers who covered it. So there's lots of versions of "Turn It Into Love" from the time that were out there.
So tell us about the same difference and your association with the song.
Well, should we talk about Hazel Dean? Let's talk about some bad things before we get to the good things. Because Hazel Dean got her sticky lesbian paws on it, and she said,
Christian,
Pete Waterman.
She's probably going to listen to this.
No, I love you. I love Hazel Dean, really. I'm just furious because she didn't do the song justice.
Did you think she would have had a choice or a say? They would have told her to do anything there.
From what I've been reading, she heard Kylie's version being mixed and said, Pete, I would love to cover that song. I'd love to release it. So he thought it was a good idea to do that, bearing in mind that it was being released only in Japan for Kylie. So in order to make it slightly different and make it, a little bit butcher for Hazel, they give it a bit more of a kind of a rocky, high energy rocky sound. It sounded nothing like the Kylie version. Nothing in the site. It sounded nothing like it. And so she released it, but it didn't do all that well. And It wasn't particularly a great version. But the video is quite funny because she goes into this kind of video jukebox in an alleyway. Strangely, I don't know. There's lots of women walking around, and she starts putting herself into these videos. And it's one of the cheapest videos I've ever seen in my entire life. But then it's one of those you need to watch because it's so awful.
Well, Hazel, I thank you for Who's Living Here, because that is a banger of a tune.
Oh, Hazel's had some great hits, but
is she proud of?
Oh no, because now she said recently that is the one she least likes to perform.
Do you still perform? Does she?
She still performs. Please, Gay Prize wouldn't be Gay Prize without Hazel Dean or Nikki French. Okay,
we're going to move on to the next track.
Oh, no, hold on. I don't think it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there's more to talk about Turning to Love.
Just going to get comfortable here.
So years later, the Mighty Same Difference appeared on The X Factor, and they were a lovely pop band. They had
Stuff, wasn't
it? No. It was who was looking after them? Was it? Oh, it was Simon Cowell's band, so he was the one who was rooting for them, and they sang lots of perky pop songs. They were kind of like a modern day. Oh, I don't know.
The brother and sister.
Yeah, the brother and sister. So they were like modern day Carpenters, but they sang high energy. They didn't sing ballads. And so anyway, once they came third, I think, in the end. So they actually did quite well in the competition. And Simon Cowell decided he wanted to release an album. So the album was a mishmash of step-sounding songs and some great pop songs, and a couple of covers. But one of the covers was going to be "Turn It Into Love," and in one of my previous careers, I used to work on a magazine, and we were doing a photo shoot with Same Difference this one delightful time, obviously a shoot that I'd set up myself, and we took them to a sweet shop, and during the break in the shoot, they were saying to me, oh yeah, we've just recorded this version of Kylie's Turn It Into Love, but we're not sure whether we should put it on the album or not. And I said, are you crazy? Of course we put it on the album. It's one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. And also you should release it as a single. It'd be absolutely joyous as a single, because it's such a good song, and Kylie never released it, and then you have that great story about we're releasing the song that Kylie fans have been denied for so many years. And so the next thing I know, it is on the album, and then I heard that it was it was mooted to be the second single, but sadly I don't think the album did all that well, so a second single never emerged. But the album version is actually very good. It's not as good as Kylie's, but it's got a lot more energy and exuberance.
The vocals are amazing.
A lot more exuberance than Hazel Dean's. If you had to put them in a chart of three, it would be Kylie, Same Difference, and
I mean, maybe
Hazel.
If Same Difference would have released that song in Japan, with all the nostalgia and all that, they would have had more international success.
Possibly. And I do remember we had a Christmas party at the magazine I worked at, and I kind of organised a Christmas party, and I booked old Same Difference in to perform for us, and by Jiminy, didn't they sing Turn It Into Love? And
did they dedicate it to you?
They dedicated it to me, and I wept like a baby, honestly. It was one of the loveliest moments of my entire life.
You're amazing.
So I really do love that. Oh, where are they now?
Thank you for the contribution to society.
Well, I like to spread some Kylie joy by making people record Kylie songs. If she doesn't release them, then we have to get other people to do it for us.
So we're saying Stephanie Kylie Smiley, right?
Oh, Kylie Smiley.
Kylie
Super
Smiley for me as
Super
well.
Kylie Smiley.
We're moving on to the next track, which is I Miss You.
Right. For me, this is a little bit of a Kylie Minogue, because it's a little too funky for me. And when this followed Turn It Into Love on the album, I thought, the momentum's suddenly stopped.
For me, it's definitely an album track. It's one of those ones that would just, you listen to, you're like, okay, that was all right, and then you move on to the next kind of banger kind of thing. It didn't really stand out as a great pop song. It's a pop song. It's okay, but it's not a great pop song.
You're right. It's a very good album filler.
Yeah.
Having said that, in retrospect, 30 years down the line, the song is actually, because I never listened to it that often at the time, it actually has a bit of freshness to it now, and I kind of almost like it more than I did then. I wouldn't choose to listen to it, but when it comes on, I actually get a bit of a flush of excitement, because I think, God, that reminds me of 1988. It reminds me of that album, and it is kind of, it is quite nostalgic, but it's not one that I would put on a party playlist.
It'll probably be interesting to see if she does Abbey Roads Volume 2, revisiting I Miss You as a slow, kind of more low-tempo version of that song might be a little bit different, a little bit cool.
Well, actually, you say that, you're right, because I think that song would lend itself very well to a slowed-down version.
Yeah, kind of a more kind of a laid-back, bluesy kind of thing. I think it might work well. But it's Minogue for me.
Yeah, it's a Minogue. Yeah, Minogue for me as well.
I'll Still Be Loving You.
Now, you see, I love this one.
Oh, yes.
It surprised me. It was the only real ballad on the album, and it had a bit of a tinny backing track, but for me it sounded like a kind of a Whitney Houston epic. And it had that really kind of like I love the bass line. There was a kind of weird scrunchy sound, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Boom, I'm not a singer, you can sing, but
I think she should have released this instead of Je ne sais pas pourquoi. This should have been the song to release. If she was going to do that kind of slowish, kind of balladish song, this would have been the one.
This would have been a lovely Christmas song. I can imagine if you thrown a few Christmas bells, it could have been actually a really pretty ballad.
That Jason Donovan Christmas version. What was that?
When You Come Back to Me, where he's...
Great! But, okay, yeah, that's another...
That's for another series.
So I would say this would be a Smiley Kylie.
Oh, it's definitely a Smiley Kylie. And I think she's performed it somewhere, hasn't she? She's performed
at the Anti-Tour. She must have done at the Anti-Tour. I was a bit drunk, so I don't really
I can't remember either, but but it is one of her greatest songs. I'd love to hear her do it now. I'd love to hear it with a real orchestra. Because I think it's as good as the song she did with Keith Washington years later. I think it's as good. I'd love to hear it with a massive orchestra, but it's slightly given a much more overblown production. I think it would be absolutely beautiful, beautiful song.
The next song is the second last song on the album. Is "Look My Way." I would give anything to give to you.
You see, again, this is another kind of Kylie Minogue for me because the B-side seems to have this kind of American funk sound. I think I'm probably overplaying that term there. But for me, I wanted to hear kind of poppy, high energy, Got to Be Certain, I Should Be So Lucky's, and the B-side of the album and the cassette was very much, it sounded very American to me, and I wasn't a big fan of that kind of American sound. So, Look My Way, it wasn't really my cup of tea. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I can't tell my vocals.
Look my way, I would give anything I have to you. Look my way, show me what you want me to do. Show me what you want me to.
Oh, sure. The thing is with her, ironically though, as much as I didn't like the music, I think her voice sounded quite good in it.
Yeah, look, again, through this whole album, her voice sounds great. Like I said before, layering your vocals to sound as one cohesive unit back in those days, kudos, lad. That's amazing, kudos. And she does sound incredible, absolutely incredible. Not as good as she did on the Locomotion Australian single, though.
Oh, dude, ridiculous. That song's never going to happen.
It will happen. I'm trying to make Locomotion happen, people.
Obviously, it did happen, but it's not going to happen in my lifetime. Not over here. Not in whatever year we're in now. 2020.
Okay, so I'm going to probably say this is a Minogue for me.
Oh, really? That's good. That's 2 Minogues for Look My Way.
And, okay, the last track on the album, Love at First Sight. Christian, this is a banger. What are you talking about?
Again,
I don't know you anymore.
Well, I don't know. I'm slightly. I'm sitting on the fence with this one because.
Oh my god! You know what I'd love her to do?
Oh.
The mashup of this song and Love at First Sight from Fever.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would sound.
Amazing.
I think it would sound like a terrible car crash. It's a very perky song, and you know what? It's one of those that I didn't like at the time because again, I thought it was another kind of. I don't know. It just didn't tick the boxes I wanted it to tick. So I wasn't a massive fan. But then looking back at it now with nostalgic ears, it is actually quite a joyous song, and it is probably better than I remember it being. So I do have a soft spot for it. It's not my favourite, but it's. I won't give it a Minogue. I'll say that it's a Kylie Smiley, but a kind of a very a gentle smile.
Every now and then the Eagle here in London have these nights where kind of they do Kylie Minogue versus Madonna, or they do anniversaries of Kylie albums, and we go along and listening to this song on a dance floor with screaming people all around singing the lyrics back. It was a revelation. Listening to it loud in an environment, in a club situation, made me love this song even more than I did when I was listening to it as an 8-year-old with the cassette tape on my chest.
Well, that's true, because I think when you hear something if you hear a song in a place where it should be heard, in a very loud venue, then you actually hear the song in a completely different way than you would in earphones. And yeah, you're right, when we've been to the Eagle and we've been surrounded by all those men in their 40s and 50s screaming at the top of their voices.
And there's like smoke machine jets going off.
Yeah, with all their beards and moustaches and bellies. My own too. That's the song sounds so much better. So yeah, when they played that in the past, I have enjoyed it. So I didn't like it at the time, but I think over time it's kind of become a song that I didn't really appreciate. And I think that's the best thing, the good thing about albums. At the time, your musical tastes are very they're defined in a certain way at a certain time. So I was looking for a certain thing at that point. Over the years, my musical tastes have changed slightly, and my mind has been open to different styles. And I think now looking back, some of the songs I didn't like are actually much better than I thought they were. So now I can appreciate some of the songs. Like It's No Secret, I kind of went off that very quickly, but looking back, it's actually probably quite a brilliant song.
I'm looking forward to
I didn't
liking
enjoy it
that
at the same time. Sorry, I didn't enjoy it at the time, but it's actually probably a very, very good song and underappreciated.
Should we talk about, especially for you now, or should we wait to the Enjoy Yourself? Because it's included on the US version of Enjoy Yourself, so maybe we should wait for it.
Oh, no, let's do it now, because it comes before Hand on Your Heart.
It does. Okay, so, well, we all know, so I'm going to be a Kylie Smiley for Love at First Sight. Kylie Smiley? Yeah.
I'm going to Kylie Smiley that one too, because I think it's a good song. It's a good song.
Okay, so especially for you, so its B track was All I Want to Do Is Make You Mine, but we'll get onto that after.
So this song wasn't on the Kylie album. It comes, as Kieran said, it actually didn't appear on any UK Kylie album. It only appeared on
Jason Donovan's Greatest Hits.
Yeah, it was on. Oh no, it was on Jason Donovan's
Take the Reasons. Yes.
So it only appeared on that, but it didn't appear on any of Kylie's until Greatest Hits came out. So if you wanted to get it, you had to buy the single, which is probably quite clever of them because it was something fresh and it wasn't available anywhere. So apparently the song came about because Woolworths, who are a big shopping retail chain,
a big shopping.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They were everywhere.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
So I always thought they were very UK.
In Australia, there's Woolworths still, but it's more of a grocer, because this was more entertainment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it was a bit of. But that's where you'd buy your records. You buy all your 12 inches and albums at Woolworths. I used to love. It was a ritual going in there and just getting my 12-inch Kylie singles. And they got in touch with PWL and said, if we made an order, we want to make an order of 250,000 copies of a song with Kylie and Jason. And this is, I think Kylie and Jason got married over here in the UK by this point, because we were 18 months behind Australia.
You mean?
Yeah, sorry. I've lost track of what's real and what's not. So yeah, Scott and Charlie had just got married in Neighbours because we were behind from 18 months behind Australia in the screenings of the show, and so their relationship was at its peak. So Woolworths had the clever idea to suggest that it would be a great idea to have a single with the two of them performing. And I think Kylie and Jason were both. Well, Kylie was reluctant to do it. I'm not sure if Jason was, because he was just kicking off his career with. Nothing Can Divide Us.
Yes,
a joyous song. Oh, lovely. Kylie said that she thought it might be a little bit tacky, and she said for a while that it was quite taboo talking about doing it, so she didn't really want to do it. And even when it came out, she said it isn't something that she wanted to do. But Pete Waterman also at first thought it wasn't a great idea. He thought it might be a bit tacky, which is strange for Pete Waterman, bearing in mind the Reynolds girls. And any of those Pat and Mick records, to be honest.
Jack.
And let's not get started on how the other ones he did. There was some terrible stuff. Anyway, that's by the by. But eventually the pressure of Woolworths saying that they would order so many copies and the ka-ching in his ears, he decided to do it. And so I think that Mike and Matt went over to Australia to record the song with them.
Yeah. And basically in 36 hours I had the song. Have you listened to the original mix of Especially For You? Horrendous.
It's very. It feels like it's.
Oh my god, so flat. And so thankfully they went back in the studio and remixed it after hearing it, and then what they have is what they received is what we listen to now. Great song. I remember there was some person in Days of Our Lives or some soap in America that did a duets album and recorded this song. It's a great pop song.
Well, I remember hearing it for the first time, and I heard the opening. And I thought this is very unusual for Stockade Immortal. Yeah. I thought, well, this isn't. And then all of a sudden it just kicked into the song, and then it was just this absolutely amazing melody and this great vocal from Kylie. Then Jason, in fairness to Jason, he may not be as an accomplished singer at that point than as Kylie back then, but their voices melded together so well that it actually sounded really good to listen to, and the chorus is just so anthemic, and it's kind of almost filmic in a way, isn't it? You can imagine at the end of Grease 3 or something, because it's that kind of end of
hands raised
end of film kind of together song, and it's absolutely amazing, and the video is brilliant.
So this was kind of manufactured to be a Christmas number one, right? But it did actually get to number one. It got to number 2 for Christmas, but then went to number 1 in the New Year.
So this was Kylie's 5th number 2 in a row, I think. Because she had number 1 with I Should Be So Lucky, then it was 222 for the other song. So I think she was breaking records at this point. I think she was one of the most. She was having so many consecutive number 2s that was kind of put in the record book slightly, I think. But yeah, so the song got entered number 2. But Cliff Richard's "Mistletoe and Wine" was number 1, and that was a massive song at the time. and so it didn't quite make the Christmas number one, but it was still, it still meant a lot to us.
People are still playing it now. I mean, it's but both songs, but
then it got to number one in the first week of the new year because Cliff Richard's Mistletoe and Wine was completely out of date by January the 1st. So, especially if you made it to number one for the next 2 weeks, I believe.
And went number one in Hong Kong, Ireland, Belgium, and France.
And the video was good because obviously it was shot in Australia, but there were elements in it that I loved because I like the fact they kept missing each other. And then, but my favourite part is when they sit on each other's laps and they actually just look like a real couple.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, they weren't alluding to the fact that they actually were a real couple. They were saying that they were just co-stars, that they weren't really together. But as it emerged years later, they were together at the time. And they just looked so lovely together when they were just laughing and they're rocking in the seat. Oh, it brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah, no, I would say that is a Kylie Smiley for me.
Oh, definitely. It's a super Kylie Smiley. And we have to talk about the B-side because the B-side is even more sensational. The B-side is... I said Grease 3 minutes ago, but the B-side sounds like a Grease song. So it's got that kind of like 50s...
Do you know what I love about the B-side? It's that the backing is so cheap and cheerful. I kind of want that as my phone ringtone because seriously, it is incredible. Absolutely amazing.
It sounded unlike anything I'd heard before. It's very different to Stockake and Waterman. And I remember hearing it for the first...
Do you think very different Stockake and Waterman?
Oh, I didn't know. It didn't have that cheap beat. So
listen to it again.
But it had that kind of 50s thing, which they kind of then did explore further on along the line in other covers that they would do. But I loved that song. It was one of the most amazing songs. I actually listened to that one more than Especially For You for a while because I thought it's so much more upbeat. And then there's a 12-inch version of it the 12-inch version of it, and it's just I'm speechless, but I love it.
I love it because again they did the whole same thing with There's Just a Bubble Choir and Made in Heaven, where they did the Especially For You on one side of the LP and the All I Want to Do Is Make You Mine on the other side. So I love them.
Well, I never noticed that because now we're looking at the 12-inch. Single sleeve, and on the main Especially For You side, you've got them
the classics. It's a classic shot of them together.
It's actually like an
orange kind of.
It's a beautiful couple shot on the cover. She's got her hand to her head. She looks beautiful. Jason looks so handsome.
Hiding his mullet.
But no, I think he had his mullet cut off by that.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he had it whipped off. And they both look like the most beautiful couple you've ever seen. And then on the flip side, you've got this kind of red, white, and blue kind of theme going on, and you've got Kylie in a hat, and even Jason in a hat, if you please. And she's wearing this blue hat with the little white hearts or spots.
Little kind of spots, yeah.
And then she's wearing this denim with a floral thing underneath. And
her hair looks great as well. I mean, this is they look like they're having a lot of fun.
Well, it looks like in this picture because she's got her mouth open and he looks like he's stuck something up a bottle. She looks like Jason. What have you put up there? She looks very startled, but she looks very happy. It's one of my favourite covers for any of her singles.
Yeah,
I think, and it was at this point I think that Stockake and Waterman came into their own, and from this moment on, all the songs they started producing were supreme. And I think this was their new as they moved into 1989. I think their music turned a corner, and I think they became their songwriting skills became way better.
I think by 1990, that's when, like, obviously with Better the Devil, like we'll get to that in another couple of weeks, but I think they were they're obviously improving and realizing they had this massive superstar with them, and obviously wanting to take that journey together with them. I think it's phenomenal.
Yes, I couldn't help but notice that they I think Kylie had inspired them to take their music songwriting seriously. Not that they weren't taking it seriously before, but they knew they had a proper artist to work with. They had Rick Astley, but they didn't really have a female artist who they could kind of do the same thing with. I think in Kylie, because she had such a distinctive voice, that she was someone that they could really give great songs to. And I think, as we know from subsequent albums, she was given some of the best songs that they've ever written.
Great. So I think this is
super Kylie, Smiley Kylie.
I mean, this
Smiley
is
explosion.
Smiley Kylie after she came back from the dentist, had everything cleaned. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So, okay, should we do a little bit of a quiz?
Oh, okay, let's do a quiz. What am I doing?
So basically, you need to tell me
what song
is this? Okay.
So you're going to read me a lyric, is that right?
Maybe a line of a song from the Kylie album, and you will need to tell me which song this comes from.
Ooh.
Over and over, I'm happy to be this way.
Oh, heavens. I'm never a good lyric person because I never listen to them. I just listen to the joyous melodies.
The beats.
Just remind me of that line again.
Over and over, I'm happy to be this way.
Is this, what's it called? Oh, is it I Miss You?
Yes, I miss you.
All right. It's funny how that came into my head there. I think it's because Kieran just showed me because I couldn't actually remember.
I'm actually terrible at this, so I'm going to be...
Yeah, when lyrics are out of context, I'm very bad. But I'm going to see if you recognise this lyric. I can't even read it. My God, it's very stained.
It is very... Well, it's the original 1988 cassette.
Oh, gosh. Should I...
There's all... Because, like, I've got, like, sellotape there. Because
back in those days, there were no wet wipes. So, the lyrics... My God, I really can't read this text. It's so small. Oh, yeah. Show me that you want my love.
Show me that...
Wow, I wouldn't even know that. I'm reading it.
Show me that you want my love.
Show me that you want my love. I can't even put the tune to that.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say, is it Look My Way?
Yes, I guess you guessed that because I'm looking at the right-hand side of this inlay card. So I guess... But I wouldn't even know how that lyric sounds.
Okay, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we are basically going to be putting together 2 songs from each of Kylie's albums to make the definitive, because she's already had the Step Back in Time definitive collection. So we're going to do the diminutive collection, the definitive diminutive collection.
There you go, that's the one. So we're going to choose 2 songs that we think are brilliant, not necessarily singles, but ones that are great classics from time, that if you were to put them on an album, you would have Kylie's juiciest bits.
So, just to remind ourselves, on the Kylie album, and we're including, especially for you on this one, I Should Be So Lucky.
Yes.
The Loco Hyphen Motion.
That's right.
Je ne sais pas pourquoi. It's No Secret. Got to Be Certain. Turn Into Love. I Miss You. I'll Still Be Loving You. Look My Way. And Love at First Sight.
And Especially For You.
And Especially For You. And All I Want to Do Is Make You Mine. Should we include Made in Heaven in that as well?
Yes, let's include, because they are songs in their own right. Although yes, that's right, yeah.
But we probably get hate mail if we put, like, these B tracks.
Well, we'll do like Melody Festival in Sweden. We'll choose the 2 songs that we think are great, and then we'll have a runner-up that could be one of the other songs, if we think they're worthy enough.
Okay.
If not, then, yeah, right. Who's going to complain? We don't care. We're going to do what we like.
Okay, you go first. Which one is it?
Right, let me think. So my first entry into the Kylie Minogue definitive diminutive album is, well, it's not a surprise, it's Turn Into Love, because it's one of the greatest songs. I think that's got to be there.
Great.
I'm certain.
I'm actually, for the second inclusion into the definitive diminutive Kylie Minogue album, I'm going to have to say, Especially For You.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was toying between the original Australian version of the Locomotion, no hyphen.
Well, they didn't make it onto the album, so unfortunately that trash has not even been considered.
Yeah, but still, we considered Especially For You, right? So I think I could have potentially...
Possibly, right. Well, I'll let you have that one, yes. But it's not on the list, it's fine.
No, yeah, but it was a close second, Especially For You. What is going to be the third?
So the third is a bonus one. Actually, I think maybe... We said 2. I think we'll have 2 and we'll have a bonus one, and then later
We're kind of making the rules up now as we go, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kylie's just too good because she released so many good songs.
Oh no! But when we get to Kiss Me Once or X, there's going to be.
Oh yeah! Once we get to the Parlophone years, post Fever, then we'll be hard pressed to find any songs.
Yes, exactly.
We won't mention Body Language until we get there. I still can't believe that album. Honestly.
Okay, we'll save that.
Anyway, so
what are we doing? So we've chosen 2.
So we've chosen 2. Turn It Into Love and Especially For You. God, they're joyous. So the third one. So I can't choose anything else off the album. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's do the Minogue.
Why should you say
Let's do the 2 that are the 2 that we least like. So we'll get rid of 2.
I Miss You and Look My Way.
Look My Way is definitely.
Oh no, but I had It's No Secret.
Well, right, we'll have one each. You have It's No Secret, so that's binned, which I don't agree with, but Look My Way is my one. I think that's the worst one on the album.
Okay.
So I'm ditching those. But my bonus track would be Made in Heaven.
Oh, yes. I'm happy with that.
So, right. So the winners then are Turn Into Love.
Especially For You.
And then our bonus track is Made in Heaven.
Fantastic! This could be a great album.
Oh, I'm already wanting to
we're probably going to be listening to it, but it'll be fine.
Well, now we need to know what everyone thinks. So you've been listening to us for, an hour and a half? Oh, God, an hour and 15 minutes.
Jeez.
So we obviously have our own opinions, and we have our own minds. We're allowed to have opinions, so please don't send any hate mail.
Yeah, hashtag be kind, people.
Yeah, exactly, because you never know what we might be doing after we've drunk a glass of wine. Who knows what we'll end up doing. Yes, so you should let us know what you think. So look below on the information below, and you'll see where you can send us your comments. And let us know what your favourite 2 Kylie Smiley songs are, and which songs you think should be binned.
And next week, we're going to be looking at the definitive pinnacle album, Enjoy Yourself. And I'll be digging into my Kylie Minogue fan club years and pulling out some old letters and stuff. And it's going to be a hoot. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.